The NFL season is just a couple of days away, so in today's video, I want to go ahead and predict each of the major NFL honors awards. So as I mentioned, I'm going to be trying to predict every single major award for the NFL honors, those awards being Comeback Player of the Year, Rookie of the Year, Offensive and Defensive Player of the Years, Coach of the Year, and then of course the MVP. For the Rookie of the Year, I'm just going to do one basic Rookie of the Year. I know it's offensive and defensive, but we're just going to do one singular one for that one. And for each prediction, I'll give you guys my prediction and 2 honorable mentions. Before we actually hop into the video, around 90% of you guys who watch my content aren't subscribed. So if you enjoy the content, hit the like and subscribe button. Let's get into the video. So as I mentioned, we are going to start off by talking about each individual award, and we are going to begin with the Comeback Player of the Year award. And for this award, there are a number of players who are coming off of injuries or major storylines, but I primarily focused on players who are returning from injury. And for my 2 honorable mentions, I decided to go with Aaron Rodgers and Trevon Diggs. For Aaron Rodgers, I think he's going to have a fantastic season. There just happens to be a couple players who I think are going to have a better year. It would not surprise me at all if Aaron Rodgers does win this award. I think he has a great team around him, and I think that Jets team is going to have an awesome year. But ultimately, he's just going to be an honorable mention for now. And then for Trevon Diggs, I think his style of play is really good for winning awards, and I do think in this case he can win this award. If he has a season where he generally locks down the receiver in front of him and manages to get a couple interceptions, I think he can be in the conversation for this award, especially coming off of a torn ACL. But as for my winner of this award, I'm going to go ahead and give it to Joe Burrow. Now, Burrow wasn't injured the entire season like Diggs and Aaron Rodgers were, but ultimately he was gone for much of the season, as well as he was just hindered by injuries the entire year. And as he heads into 2024, he is looking like the most healthy version we've seen since the past couple years. And if he's able to stay healthy, we know that he has that connection with guys like Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and all those players on that offense. So it's a pretty reasonable expectation to have on Joe Burrow to have a pretty awesome season. Again, assuming he can stay healthy and assuming that he plays up to the expectations we can have on him, then I think he's going to have an excellent end to the year next year. As I've said for a lot of my predictions for this Bengals team, I do think they're going to start off a little bit slow because that's just kind of what they typically do. But by the end of the year, they're going to have their rhythm going, and I think Joe Burrow is going to be deep in the conversation for awards like Comeback Player of the Year, Offensive Player of the Year, MVP type awards. So with that being said, again, Joe Burrow is the winner of this award. Let's go ahead and move on next to my Rookie of the Year award. And for this award, as I said earlier in the video, it's just going to be one singular rookie. I'm not going to break it down to offensive and defensive. We're just going to go with one rookie. And for my 2 honorable mentions, I'm going to go ahead and give it to Jayden Daniels and Marvin Harrison Jr. I think Jayden Daniels is in a fine situation with the Washington Commanders. I say fine because it's not as good as the person who I think is going to win the award. But ultimately, I think he's going to be in a situation where he's going to be able to throw the ball to some really good weapons. He's going to have a decent enough offensive line to get the job done. And I think he's going to run for a crap ton of yards. If he wins this award, I would not be shocked at all. I think he is easily going to be in the conversations for it, but ultimately I got somebody else in front of him. My next honorable mention was of course Marvin Harrison Jr. I think he's easily going to be able to surpass 1,000 receiving yards, and I think he's going to have a Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson like rookie season. Maybe not as good, but on the same level. But ultimately I got a lot of faith into the person who I think is going to win, which is going to be Caleb Williams of the Chicago Bears. Now I am recording this the night of Saturday, which means that I just today watched his rookie debut with the Chicago Bears, and I'll be honest with you, I thought he played absolutely fantastic. He looked like a veteran in the system, made some awesome throws both in the pocket and on the run to different weapons, whether it was Rome Odunze or DJ Moore, primarily DJ, but you get my point. And I really did like what I saw. Now, I'm not basing this off of just one preseason game because hell, JJ McCarthy had 2 touchdowns, Jayden Daniels looked good, and hell, everyone looked good. But from just what I saw, it does look like he is going to be a master of this offense, and man, I just have so much faith in his play style that it's going to win him some awards. He plays that fun style where it's like you want to see more of him, similar to like a Mahomes or a Josh Allen. He just has that sort of style to him, and I think that style is going to lead to him to have a lot of success both in the media and just on the field. So to me, I think he's going to have an awesome season where he easily surpasses like 4,000 all-purpose yards and has a great year and wins the Rookie of the Year award. But with that being said, let's go ahead and move on to our next award, and I'm going to skip the MVP, Offensive and Defensive Player of the Year to go ahead and talk about the Coach of the Year award. And for this award, my 2 honorable mentions are going to be DeMeco Ryans and Andy Reid. For D'Amico Ryans, I think he's going to have an awesome year next year with the Houston Texans. I think they're going to be one of the best teams in the AFC and likely win the AFC South. And I really do think that this is America's darling right now. Like, everyone is kind of secretly rooting for the Houston Texans outside of like Jaguars, Titans, and Colts fans. And I think because they're going to be America's darling, there's going to be a lot of eyes on them. And if they meet the expectations of the fans, then I easily think he's going to get himself in the conversations for this award. I think there was a case for him to win it last year, and I think this year he's probably going to win it or be in the conversation to get it. As it goes for Andy Reid, you could just really never count out Andy Reid. That is going to be an awesome team, that Chiefs team, and I think that Andy Reid is going to be a big vocal point as to why they're going to be so awesome. So I do believe he'll be in the conversations, but per usual, he probably won't win it. He'll just be like a second or third place finale guy. But in terms of the winner, I'm going to give it to Dan Campbell of the Detroit Lions. I think that Lions team is going to be maybe the best team in the NFC or the NFL in general next year. They got so much talent, whether it's Penei Sewell, Amon-Ra, Jared Goff, Jahmyr Gibbs, Aiden Hutchinson. Damn near every single positional group is really awesome. And I think Dan Campbell is going to be a big reason as to why. He gets a lot of public publicity. He gets a lot of publicity from who he is as a character and what he does on the field. He's just one of those guys that a lot of people like and a lot of people want to hear more from. So I think next year, assuming that Lions team does have the year that we expect, and hopefully they can beat some really good teams next year, then I think easily Dan Campbell is going to be in the conversations. But now let's talk about the Defensive Player of the Year award, and my two honorable mentions are going to be TJ Watt of the Pittsburgh Steelers and Max Crosby of the Las Vegas Raiders. For TJ Watt, I think he's going to have another awesome season where he puts up a bunch of stats, a bunch of sacks, strip sacks, interceptions, all those sort of things, and just in general just impacts the team at a very high level. But when I'm looking at this award, I'm looking at a lot of guys who are all going to do very similar things, such as a Max Crosby on this list, or a Nick Bosa, or a Myles Garrett, or any maybe cornerback out there. There's going to be a lot of people competing for this award. So ultimately, you're going to have some level of team success and unit success that I just don't know if TJ is going to have to the same extent of some of the other players who I talk about on this list. But TJ Watt is easily going to be in the conversations every single year, to be honest with you. So if he wins it, I wouldn't be shocked. And as it goes for Max Crosby, he is very similar to TJ Watt in basically every single context. He's going to put up a bunch of stats. He's going to be a pass rush darling, and he's going to play fantastic, and people are going to love him. But ultimately, because we're kind of picking hairs on who's going to win this award, I need the team and unit to be very successful next year for me to give him the award. Which leads me to the winner of this award, which is going to be Micah Parsons. It feels like every year since his rookie year, he's been in the conversations, but just has not been able to finish the year off to win the award. And now that he's getting a new defensive coordinator and that he's going to be utilized as that all-around weapon that he should be utilized like, I expect him to have a massive season. I think this is a year where you could easily see him surpass 15 sacks, probably end up with an interception or two because he's going to be playing some linebacker apparently, and in general just be a darling in the media because of everything he's able to do. Assuming no injuries, which is for every single player that's going to be on this list the entire video, I think he's going to have a massive year, and I think he's going to be in the conversations from day one, and probably by the end of the year be in the conversations to win it for the entire season. Next up, let's talk about the Offensive Player of the Year award. My two honorable mentions, I will be discussing CeeDee Lamb of the Dallas Cowboys and Tyreek Hill of the Miami Dolphins. This is maybe the hardest award, maybe outside of MVP, to predict because there is a lot of people who could easily win this award. You can talk about guys like Christian McCaffrey, Bijan Robinson, Justin Jefferson, so on and so forth, and there's just going to be a lot of people who could be in the conversation for this. So to be honest with you, I just kind of threw a shot in the dark for my winner. But talking about CeeDee Lamb, he's going to be the focal point of the offense for that Cowboys team. They really don't have another receiver. I mean, they do have Brandon Cooks and Jalen Tolbert, but they're not stars like a T. Higgins who might take away from a guy like Jamar Chase is. But ultimately speaking, I really do think that CeeDee Lamb is going to have another massive year where he'll probably surpass like 1,600 receiving yards, probably get some rushing yards because they'll utilize him so often. And as I said, he's going to get a ton of receptions. He's going to be the focal point of this offense, so I think he's going to have a massive year. And then for Tyreek, basically the same thing as CD. I think he's going to have another one of those years where he just lights up the stat sheet. He's going to probably end with 1,500 plus receiving yards, a couple of rushing yards, and plenty of touchdowns. But ultimately, again, as I said earlier in this portion, I'm just going to throw out a big shot in the dark here. I'm going to give it to Jamar Chase. Again, I'm probably going to be wrong here, but my kind of thought process behind this is that last year he sort of had a bit of a disappointing season, given that he's usually around 1,400 receiving yards, and last year he didn't get to that point. And now with a fully healthy Joe Burrow, a bunch of questions surrounding T. Higgins, and the departure of Joe Mixon, and the improvements along the offensive line, I think it's kind of set up for him to have a massive year. I understand if you disagree with this one and think somebody like CD or Tyreek or McCaffrey or Bijan are going to win this award. Again, this is a complete shot in the dark here, but my general assumption is that he's going to have a massive year, and maybe his best year of his career career, and if he does have that, they're going to have a lot of people talking about them, and I think he could easily rise up the ranks to get that award. But lastly, let's talk about the MVP award. As I said earlier, this was maybe the hardest award to figure out because there's like 15 players that can honestly win this award. So to narrow it down to just 3 names, my 2 honorable mentions are going to be Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen. I feel like I can kind of group these guys into one basic kind of statement here. These are both guys who have been in conversations, and for the case of Mahomes, has already won several of them. And for the case of Josh Allen, he probably could have won one by now as well. Both of these guys will be in the conversations for this award for basically their entirety of their careers. They put up a bunch of stats. They're the best players at their respective position. And I think in totality, they're going to have an awesome year this year, especially with Josh Allen having some improvements on the offense. But ultimately, similar to the Offensive Player of the Year, I'm kind of taking a bit of a shot in the dark here. My MVP is going to be CJ Stroud. Now, for full context, I want to throw out a bunch of other names that maybe could win this award. Dak Prescott, Jordan Love, any of the Offensive Player of the Year guys could win this one, whether it's CD, Tyreek, Justin, so on and so forth. And the last name, Jared Goff. Give him some respect too. He's going to have an awesome season. But ultimately, I think that there is a foundation set up for CJ Stroud to have a massive second breakout in his sophomore year type of season where he's got everything going for him. The offensive line should be healthy, and it should be the best version we've seen of this unit in quite some time. They bring in guys like Joe Mixon, Stephon Diggs to add even more experience and weaponry on this offense. They were able to keep Bobby Slowick, and that defense is pretty darn good. So in totality, the team is going to be set up for success this year, and I think CJ is going to benefit a crap ton from it. The only questions I really do have for this pick, in my opinion, is can Stroud get the numbers to actually back him up? Last year, he had 4,000 receiving yards, but only like 20 touchdowns. And in my opinion, when you are competing against the likes of Dak Prescott, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, you got to get like 30, 40 touchdowns to win the award. Of course, last year, Lamar Jackson didn't win the award with not really having the greatest stats, but in the case of next year, I think you're going to have a lot of big time stats. And I do think CJ is very capable of doing it. It just hasn't quite yet been shown because last year he didn't have like the most outstanding stats in the world. But again, I think the foundation has been laid out for him to have a massive season, and again, kind of a shot in the dark here. But you guys tell me, do you guys agree with my picks, or do you guys think my picks were trash? Again, this is sort of just a prediction video, so you let me know your predictions in the comment section below, and if I agree, I'll hit it with a like. If I disagree, I'm gonna roast your ass in the comments. I'm just kidding, but if you enjoyed the video, hit the like and subscribe button, and I love you guys. Peace.